it's a very different review, this one, because you and I have fallen to very different conclusions.
You will be really surprised by what comes next. You might even question reality.
Hero had borrowed design cues from a lot of different manufacturers and makes and models.
First, I have to say that I really feel bad for TVS.
I found myself pulling up to red lights and just revving it for no reason at all. I was one of those people. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Now, how many times on this very channel have I said this? Middle class aspirations are growing alongside middleweight motorcycle market. Now, it really pains me to repeat, but the 300 and 400cc motorcycle class in India is growing. I feel the Mavrick 440 will be ideal for those upgrading from a 200cc motorcycles and prepare them for a big bike journey ahead. Well, I think the initial excitement of all these new 300 to 400cc motorcycles has now faded. It's time to get to the nitty-gritties and it's time to compare these guys. So, without further ado, my name is Karan Mathur.
And I'm Aakash Paul.
And in this week's episode, we have with us the RTR 310 and the Hero Mavrick 440.
But here's the interesting thing. I rode the Apache RTR 310 for the initial first ride, and I had not ridden the Mavrick up until now. And Karan, on the other hand,
Well, I rode the Mavrick and for a good 2 to 3 days across a trip in Gujarat, and I'd never gotten on the RTR 310 for a proper review. So today was the day.
yeah, finally we got to ride the other motorcycle and combine our experiences. And today we'll talk about what we liked in each motorcycle and what we did not. And the main point was that there are a lot of motorcycles in the 300 to 400cc segment, but the special thing about these motorcycles is that they are made by homegrown manufacturers, Hero and TVS. And yes, there are other motorcycles which have taken the limelight in this segment recently, and rightly so. But I think these motorcycles also deserve to be talked about because they also do some things really right.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Like both these motorcycles, they have international counterparts.
Yes.
The Mavrick has the Harley Davidson X440 and the RTR 310 has the BMW G310. Now we also have the Pulsar NS400 in the mix, and all these motorcycles are really good motorcycles in their own right.
Correct.
Now, of course, like this review being for homegrown makers, we discounted the Triumph and the BMW, and the Pulsar, well, in our opinion, it just didn't make the cut. These were the motorcycles that would have been winning in this comparison anyway. So let's just start with these two.
And also, the Pulsar does not really have a foreign counterpart. Like, not directly, yes, that engine to a certain degree has been used here and there, but not like a direct counterpart like the TVS and the Hero have.
Yeah. All right, Aakash. So let's start with the revision first. And what did you think about the RTR 310 in your first ride review?
Okay, I'll go about this in a slightly roundabout manner because first I have to say that I really feel bad for TVS. And the reason why I say that is because first they launched the Ronin at a very good price and it was a nice motorcycle. But then shortly after that, RE came with the Hunter, which was higher capacity and basically the same price, lesser if I'm not wrong. And something similar happened with the RTR 310 also, that when it was initially introduced, it looked like a really good deal, but then we had these onslaught of like 400cc motorcycles which were better priced. And when I rode the motorcycle almost a year ago, I was really impressed by what TVS had managed to do. Yes, they had the engine already there, but to add all those extra electronic bits, especially the traction control which you can switch off, the ABS settings, the ride modes, all of that. And they also brought in some nice features like the cruise control and the climate controlled seat. So all of that combined with that naked body style. And I know the public has been a little split about the design. Actually, a lot of people are calling it the copy of the Duke, but design is subjective. And this is one area where I would say that I really like the design.
I think the RTR looks better than the Duke.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, you could call it overstyle, but this is a case where I think that it just maybe appeals to the kid inside of me. Like, how when we were like 10 years old and we would like all these Transformers-esque cars and bikes. And the RTR 310 appeals to that part of my brain, and that's why I think I like the design of that motorcycle.
Now, I think that's
Yeah,
it's something. It's the design which really like appeals to you. You know.
absolutely. And even when you get on it, surprisingly, it's not a very uncomfortable motorcycle in terms of the ergonomics.
Yeah.
Like you sit in a very, I would say, a confined-ish space because the foot pegs, compared to the Mavericks especially, the foot pegs are higher up and the handlebar is also a little higher up. So you kind of sit.
But
like
they're
this.
wider.
Yes, they're a little wider. So you sit in a very nice cocoon kind of like, it's almost like an invisible pod which you fit inside, and then you sit on the bike and you just start riding. So that way, I think they've done a really good job. The only eyesore is that exhaust, which is like a straight lift from the RR310. I think an underslung unit, which is a little more incognito, would have looked much better, or maybe a shorter can just overall would have made it look even better.
Yeah.
What do you think?
For me, I think we'll get to the RTR 310 about what I thought about it. I think that's the main topic of this video. Okay, I'll start with the Mavrick 440, and I was in a position to first ride the X440 and then get to the Mavrick 440. And between those two, I liked the Mavrick better. The design was a lot more enticing. I think Hero had borrowed design cues from a lot of different manufacturers and makes and models, but whatever they did, it ended up looking good. Like it didn't look odd as such. So yeah, I can forgive them for that. Like they did choose the best of the best for it, and that's what they executed. Now, in terms of how it is as a motorcycle, the ergonomics were comfortable. It is a very neutral position, but sometimes it gives you the impression that you are sitting on a proper street roadster.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
it is a bit hunkered down.
Yep.
It is broad. You know, you have that circular headlight
Headlamp.
and everything. So I think it falls into the category of retro new roadsters as such.
Especially when you slide yourself forward in the seat and then you hug the tank and then you can really maneuver the bike well. And that just feels like nice. And I also, just like you, I also thought that, yes, it's the same X440 engine in pretty much the same state of tune. But I think I like the Mavrick package much more. It is easier to get onto and be on the saddle for a longer while because of, you know, the comfortable seat and the overall ergonomics. Especially for taller riders, I think the X440, the rider triangle is just not right. I think the foot pegs could have been positioned a little forward, and that is where it gets things a little wrong. But otherwise, I think the Mavrick does what it had to do, bringing a nice, enjoyable riding experience with a higher capacity engine at a very good price.
Even compared to the X440, I thought the X440 was more of a traveling companion rather than a city friendly ride, whereas the Mavrick just managed to do all of it in the best manner possible.
Yeah, jack of all trades.
Yeah, jack of all trades. And it does it well. So maybe not jack, maybe like a queen of all trades.
Yeah.
Something weird.
You get the idea.
Yeah, exactly. So overall, the Mavrick, I felt, was just a quintessential 300 to 400 cc motorcycle for Indian road conditions.
Yeah. Also a no nonsense motorcycle.
Yeah, no nonsense 300 cc, 400 cc motorcycle.
Yeah.
For Indian conditions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now we come on to the topic at hand.
Yes.
Which one of these two is better? Now, do you want to go first and tell me about your experience with the Mavrick?
Yeah, sure. So the Mavrick, I really enjoyed all the torque that you have available from, pretty much low down in the rev band. So that means that when you're in the city, you're never short of power. You can easily make overtakes. The moment you leave the clutch, it doesn't feel like, the engine has to wait for the revs to climb up. So that I really like. It's very easy to just zip through traffic. The engine manages to contain the vibrations very well below 4,000 RPM. After 4,000, compared to the RTR 310, I would say it is much, much worse.
It's very flat.
It's very flat, and also the vibrations are like The RTR has vibrations almost throughout, but like when you go past 5,000, the Mavrick gets much, much worse. So that is one thing which I did not like. However, the gearbox works well. The suspension also works really well, especially if you go over a bump at higher speeds.
Contains it very well, right?
Contains it very well compared to the RTR, which
Oh my God, I can't. I'll get to that point. I had some scary moments when I was taking the RTR back home. Even when you're just crossing triple digit speeds and you hit a pothole, it definitely upsets the chassis quite a bit.
yeah, that is true. And also with the Mavrick, what I really like is the overall comfort basically that you get. We mentioned the ergonomics earlier and the comfortable seat. The suspension, again, we talked about. And it's just a very easy motorcycle to ride. The only small issue I have with that is it feels very front heavy. Like it feels, especially when you come to a halt, you realize that all the weight, all the mass is like up at the front. So while taking U-turns and all, you have to be a little more conscious of your inputs compared to the RTR. So that is one area where it's not even really like a problem. It's just something that you have to be aware of.
Yeah.
So overall, I mean, I thought I would not like the Mavrick, but I actually found quite a lot of good things.
And
And we have to talk about the exhaust note. Yes, again, that's something common between the X440 and the Mavrick. But in this context, like the RTR, we heard from our camera crew that the RTR was pretty much silent when you know the bikes were riding together, and you could clearly hear the Mavrick, and it's a very nice bassy, kind of sound that even after riding for a very long time, you do not get tired of that sound.
I found myself pulling up to red lights and just revving it for no reason at all. I was one of those people. I was pulling up to red lights and brum, 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 and I was enjoying myself.
Yeah, so I mean, could it do with a few more features?
Yeah, definitely.
But then considering the price that it is coming at, I think it's a very well packaged motorcycle.
The biggest downfall of the Mavrick is that uninspiring instrument cluster. It feels lifted from a small motorcycle, and it just throws off the entire premium vibe.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Absolutely. And especially in the company of the RTR, that instrument cluster looked really flat.
So the prices, the Hero Mavrick, the version we tested was 2.24 lakh ex-showroom, which will work up to about 2.6, 2.7 on road. And the RTR 310 we tested was the Fury Yellow with all the bells and whistles.
Correct.
And that was 2.72 ex-showroom, and which will end up costing you around 3.07, 3.08 on road. So those are the price comparisons just into perspective.
So basically, the on-road price of the Mavrick is pretty much similar to the ex-showroom price of the RTR. So that begs the question, Karan, do you think that kind of price difference is justified for the RTR?
Plain and simple, without even getting deeper into it, I think it does. The amount of features you get, the design you get, and the performance you get, I think it really justifies the extra price point. And the Mavrick is a really good motorcycle on all accounts. But what it boils down to is if you spend that little extra to get a lot extra from the RTR. Because every time someone asks me about the RTR 310, I started with modes, traction control, ABS settings, the cooled and this thing. And there was always a feature which I always missed. Cruise control. I just missed that. You know, like
quick shifter.
So you just, there's so many features that you'll end up, if you're suggesting it to someone, you'll end up forgetting the features it really has. It has that many. And my first impression was the design. It's a motorcycle which is a pleasure to walk up to. You know, if it's yours, you park it somewhere and walk back up to it. And that's an occasion altogether. You know, then you sit on it and you start riding. And it impresses you with the performance it packs. That punch it gives you off the line, and beyond that, I think it's pretty enticing. It really hooks you. And how it delivers its power, I think it's pretty manic. Unlike the Hero Mavrick, which is slightly calm, it delivers in a very progressive
gradual
fashion. This is like, let's go!
Did you also feel that, after a certain point, when you pull the accelerator, it almost feels like a turbocharged engine that, you get that kick.
Nothing, and then
then
complete.
kick.
It does. But the gear ratios I felt were pretty short, and that does become a problem in city traffic because it's always difficult to switch between first and second. Sometimes first at really slow speeds, second at slightly lower speeds, but not high enough. It's just it can never decide on
That's one thing which I also found a little bit not annoying, but like something again which was not ideal. And I also found that because of the lack of torque lower down, it's easier to stall the RTR than the Mavrick. Did you also feel it?
I felt the same thing, and what made it worse was the hard clutch.
Yes. Oh, even though both
hard
bikes,
clutch, notchy gearbox.
Yes, even though both bikes come with a slip and assist clutch, the clutch on the RTR is definitely heavier. It could be a little lighter, and that would make things
a lot more smoother. But overall, I think the RTR 310 definitely fits into a mold of someone who wants a fast, overexcited,
motorcycle,
golden retriever energy of a motorcycle, which the RTR fits.
And one that is a lot customizable as well, because you have 4 different ride modes. And then on top of that, you can go into the settings, you can switch off the rear ABS, you can switch off the traction control. There is a quick shifter, which again, depending on your preferences, you can switch on or off. So there are, like when you go into the instrument cluster, and that brings us to the brilliance of that colored instrument cluster in comparison to the Mavrick. Not only does it look cool, it has different modes, like display modes when you're in different ride modes. It shows you a lot of information. It has a lap timer. It has so many options. So it has all these options, and you can spend a long time just messing with those options. And that just keeps the fun of having a motorcycle alive for a longer time. Because yes, the Mavrick is more simple, but on the other hand, the RTR is like the complete opposite. You get like so many things that you can play with essentially.
So do you see where we're going with this? I think the RTR fits a person who wants features, who wants a motorcycle that is just fast and exciting 90% of the time.
Correct.
Okay, and they want it all at a relative affordable price. And then the Mavrick comes in, where you get probably 60% of the features. So I think that the Mavrick will appeal to someone who wants a fast motorcycle, is someone who's not into getting somewhere in a hurry.
Correct.
And overall a handsome looking motorcycle.
Yes. The Mavrick has a more solid and more stable kind of personality, while the RTR has the more zappy kind of. Yes, that's it. And speaking of the RTR, I also have to mention 2 things specifically. 2 features. One, which is absolutely great. One, which is pretty much a gimmick. And the gimmick one is the climate controlled seat. You get heating and cooling function. And while they do work in a way, I don't think you would want just your bum to be of a different temperature than the rest of your body. So yes, I like the innovation behind it, but I don't like the heated grips you need on motorcycles, because those are like functional parts. Like you actively use your hands to brake, to clutch, or to change different things. So you would want your palms to be warm. But I don't think you would want your behind to be temperature controlled.
I've never really thought about my bum being too hot or too cold on a motorcycle.
And the downside of that is, because of that mechanism, the seat is hard, because you can feel the cooling and heating mechanism, the gadgets they've used underneath the seat cushion, and that makes for a stiff kind of seat.
That's another benefit for the Mavrick. I think it gets a very neutral riding position. It gets the comfortable suspension and gets a very comfortable seat as well, which is long.
It's a single piece seat and not a lot of elevation.
So you get enough place for you to move around, and you get enough place for the pillion as well, and they're cushiony. So overall, a better bike for someone who wants to do it all.
Yeah, definitely. And the feature that works really well, and I'm a fan of, is the quick shifter. When I initially rode,
you talk about the RTR.
Yes, the RTR that has the quick shifter. I was really impressed by the quick shifter, how well it worked, especially considering that segment. And at that time, if I'm not wrong, no other motorcycle had a quick shifter in that 300, 400cc segment. Now, since then, a whole year has passed, a lot of motorcycles have come. Most of them do not even have a quick shifter, let alone a good one. So this one works so well. I've been abusing it left, right, and center through traffic. And yes, while you might not need it on daily basis, it's just nice to have a feature that actually works as it is intended to work. So for that, props to TVS. There is also another feature, which is the cruise control, which I think is also a pretty decent addition if you do highway rides, because that also works well. In city traffic, of course, you're not going to use it. So that is somewhere in the middle, while the quick shifter is like god tier stuff, and the climate control not so much. The cruise control is like somewhere in the middle.
And so since you're talking about the RTR and the highlights of your ride, I think I need to mention the highlights of my Mavrick experience. And that would have to be how usable it was in city traffic. Like the overtaking maneuvers, I would always seem to be in the right power band at the right time. So it was all flowing. You flow in traffic very well and in a quick manner. So I think that's exciting as it is. And the second thing is the exhaust note. Yes. Oh, I loved it.
So do I.
Yeah, right. And so it's the easy riding, it's the exhaust, and I think to some extent it's the design.
See, I won't say it's a bad design. I won't say I'm a fan of the design. It's good. Personally, it's good.
It's good.
It's decent. It's not going to really stand out. But then again, it has the better sounding and better looking exhaust. So I think that.
And I think in that case, it's a very different review, this one, because you and I have fallen to very different conclusions.
Yeah. So long-time viewers of autoX, you will be really surprised by what comes next. You might even question reality if you're in the right dimension, in the right timeline. Because usually, if you've seen our videos, you know Karan is just mad about motorcycles and cars.
Mad about mad motorcycles.
Yes, mad about mad motorcycles, while I take the more sedate, the more calculated, and the more practical approach. So you would think that I like the Mavrick and Karan likes the RTR more, but that's not the case. I have fallen in love with the RTR. Yes, I appreciate the Mavrick, but I'm leaning slightly more towards the RTR. While Karan, on the other hand, is
I like the RTR, but I'm leaning towards the Hero Mavrick 440.
Yeah. So basically, those were our thoughts on each of these two motorcycles. You let us know which one are you leaning more towards, and also let us know which other motorcycles we should compare next.
You think we left out the NS400Z and we shouldn't have? Well, you can tell us that too, or the Triumph, whatever, and we'll get to that comparison too very soon.
Yeah. So until the next time, this is
Karan Mathur
and Aakash Paul signing off. Hope that you stay safe when you're out there riding a motorcycle or driving a car, or maybe just walking on the road.
Yeah. Also, a small request. I think we guys are working hard towards bringing you a lot of motorcycle content in the future as well. So we would really appreciate it if you can hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, because we'll be back shortly with more such videos.